I wanted to make this video for a good while now. The idea, like where this video comes from a blog post from Austin Kleon titled "And Then What?" And I feel like I think about this blog post like at least every 2 weeks, ballpark, since I read it, which was like a few years ago. Either like I recommend it to a friend, or it just like comes up and like something in a conversation reminds me of it, or like comes up during journaling. It's one of those pieces which I just keep revisiting because it's so important to me and it resonates with me so hard. To kind of set the stage a bit and like give a bit of context, what we're talking about is kind of this obsession that we have developed of like optimizing and automating everything around us. And like if you are like a knowledge worker, or a PhD student, or just like someone who is generally into this like productivity stuff, you encounter a lot of calls from people to like outsource, and like if something is cheaper to outsource than your hourly time rate or something, then you should outsource it, then do this and do that. And like, this is just everywhere, right? Like, I get bombarded with this, like, all the time. Reading a book becomes reading an AI-generated summary. Listening to a podcast and a conversation happens on 3.5 speed. And writing a paragraph turns into feeding bullet points through an AI, right? And this is the stage where this blog post enters. I am super guilty of doing exactly what the post said that you shouldn't be doing, right? Like, I very often find myself procrastinating by like, shining and polishing workflows and like trying to optimize everything. Like, oh yeah, one keyboard shortcut and like everything happens. And maybe this is why this resonates with me so hard. I just find this regular reminder so valuable to kind of like be reminded that the work I'm doing is like an end in itself, not just like a means to an end, journey before destination for my Stormlight enjoyers out there. And I feel like it's very easy to lose track of like the big picture when you are just like staring down an unlimited backlog of tasks and just like more meetings and more busyness, and you're in a rush all the time. It really feels like I kind of forget why I got into this line of work in the first place, and that really scares me. I feel like giving examples might kind of like clarify this point a bit. So the number one thing that I noticed is my GitHub Copilot license was running out, and the only reason why I noticed this was because like GitHub kept emailing me like, oh, renew your education discount, and I noticed that over the last few months I completely stopped using GitHub Copilot like in my code editor, and I just on general don't really use language models in my coding work. Like before this, especially when like GPT-4 came out, like I had the subscription like forever. Now I canceled all of those because like, open source, woo! But I had a subscription for ChatGPT, and I would spend like hours on hours kind of like torturing the model to end up with the code that I wanted to have. And I just exchanged the work of coding to prompting, if that makes sense. And then over time I just realized that like I just don't really enjoy doing that, because it really feels like it's not what I signed up for, right? Like I got into coding because I really enjoy solving problems, right? It's basically puzzles. And, like, oh, okay, I want to do this. Let's think about it. Let's draw something. Like, okay, how would a workflow map look like of that? Okay, what does this? Oh, let's Google a bit. Oh, here is the documentation. Let's see. Oh, can I use this? What's the difference? All of these are small puzzles, and I really enjoy doing this, right? This is like how I ended up coding. And I realized that I basically traded this, like this whole activity, I just traded it for kind of like doing a hostage negotiation style of discussion with a language model that feels like it's purposefully misunderstanding me all the time. This is when like "and then what" comes in, right? Like what's next? Like, okay, let's say I massage this out, and then what's next? Like I will just like go to a next code base or a next project that I don't really want to do, and like I just grind it out with a bunch of AI, and like, why am I doing this? So my solution was that I just got rid of all of that, and now I just like write my own little code, like type it out. Of course, like I have autocomplete and I have my snippets and everything, but it's just so much more fun and engaging to work without kind of having that whole hostage negotiation dynamic. It almost feels nostalgic in a way, which is very strange. The second example I wanted to give was about writing and academic writing, and I talked a touch about this in the what I learned from the from the paper in 6 weeks projects. And I think my big takeaway was, I expected that I have my bullet point outlines and like I will just train the AI on my own style and everything, and it's just like gonna make my life so easy. But I found that anytime I fed my bullet points into the AI and like asked it for a paragraph, I was so deeply unhappy with the result. And I know how to write good prompts, right? Like I've been playing around with kind of prompting language models and like really pushing what they can do, like since more or less ChatGPT became available, like at the first time. Ever since that, I've been like really reading up into that and like being on this small sub niche of the internet of people who do this. Like, it's not really like a skill issue here. I just found that it removes so much of the satisfaction of crafting a good argument. And in a lot of cases, I'm okay with that. If it's just like, oh yeah, it's just like some like paperwork that I need to fill out, like sure, here are the bullet points, make it into nice text, whatever, fine. But when it comes to like my work, which I'm submitting under my own name, something was missing there, like the craft was missing. And what these two examples have in common really is that I missed the mark on why I got into this in the first place, right? And also, make no mistake, if there are aspects of your work that you absolutely hate and despise, then by all means automate it. Like, this is the greatest year, and every year from here on is just gonna get better at automating stuff that you really don't want to do. But just because you can automate something doesn't mean that you should automate something, right? Like, if you find yourself automating every single piece of your daily workflow because you're annoyed by it, maybe you are just in the wrong line of work, right? Just like to keep that in mind and think about that. So this is about how long I have scripted this video. And after I finished, that last sentence, I just sat here and like stared out the window for a bit. And it really feels like something is missing. And while I feel like at some point I will revisit this topic, right? Like this topic and this blog post will have to make a comeback. And I find myself debating whether I should release this in its current form or wait for the perfect form of this video to arise. But I do think that I'll just release this. And then we will just do an update or something, like a retake or an iteration, like Edvard Munch did, right? He did it all the time. Variations or something along those lines. Yeah, I guess this is learning in public. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.